It's hard to keep up with all the misleading information that's come out since the Orlando terrorist attack at the Pulse nightclub. It was bad enough that Canada's Prime Minister Justin Trudeau called this a domestic terrorist attack, as if it was carried out by the IRA or the FLQ. Barack Obama told us that the precise motive remains unclear. Omar Mateen phoned 911 and a local television station during his attack. He told News 13 Orlando, quote, "I'm the shooter. It's me. I did it for ISIS. I did it for the Islamic State." How much clearer could his motive be? Well, Obama's just playing politics, which he admitted 2 days later when he called another press conference, this time just to tell reporters that he doesn't like using the word radical Islam.
That's the key, they tell us. We can't beat ISIL unless we call them radical Islamists. What exactly would using this label accomplish? Calling a threat by a different name does not make it go away. This is a political distraction.
So he just pretended not to know the motive, even though he knew it was radical Islam. He just doesn't like saying it. He's trying to scrub the word from our minds and from our vocabulary. And it actually seems to be working pretty well in groupthink American media. Check out this New York Times editorial last week called "The Corrosive Politics That Threaten LGBT Americans." The editorial board wrote this, quote, "While the precise motive of the rampage remains unclear, it is evident that Mr. Mateen was driven by hatred towards gays and lesbians. Hate crimes don't happen in a vacuum. They occur where bigotry is allowed to fester, where minorities are vilified and people are scapegoated for political gain. Tragically, this is the state of American politics, driven too often by Republican politicians who see prejudice as something to exploit, not extinguish," unquote. Well, that didn't take long. Mateen was a registered Democrat, and he was a radical Islamist. But according to the paper of record, it's those Republican politicians and their prejudices that threaten the LGBT community. Hate is hate, right? It gets worse. The Times couldn't find the courage to mention radical Islam, or even mention that the killer was a Muslim American. Instead, and this was pointed out by Sean Davis in The Federalist, the New York Times blames the following. This comes in order: Republican politicians, Republican-led state legislatures, Republican governors, Republican federal lawmakers, Donald Trump, Mitch McConnell, Ted Cruz, North Carolina Governor Pat McCrory, Texas Governor Greg Abbott, Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton, Mississippi Governor Phil Bryant, anyone who believes in traditional marriage, anyone who's ever voted to preserve traditional marriage, and anyone who has ever voted for anyone who believes in or has ever voted to preserve traditional marriage. Wow, thanks for clearing that up, New York Times. It'd be funny if it weren't so incredibly sad. Of course, the New York Times is far from alone. You've probably seen this kind of stuff throughout the news, on your Facebook and your Twitter feeds, and every time you talk to a brain-dead Islamist apologist. Look at Muna Meyer, who contributes to Vice and the New Republic, New York Times Magazine. She had a piece in Vogue called, quote, "The Orlando shooting is proof that American culture fuels homophobia," unquote. And the subheading read, "Being out isn't as safe as people pretend it is." Okay, her article comes to this startling conclusion. More than anything else, Omar was a product of American culture. The rage he held in his heart for gay people, and perhaps for himself, is the same rage fueling street harassment of visibly queer and gender nonconforming people on the Brooklyn blocks I walk every day. It stems from a violent, misogynistic appraisal of desire and bodies in which certain formations are acceptable under patriarchy and others are met with violence." Unquote. Okay, where do we even start with that one? Well, it's true that violent misogyny did fuel Omar Mateen's hatred. And it's pretty obvious where the real culture of homophobia and violence really comes from. Just look at the Saudi-funded Salafi Sunni mosques all over America, or talk to a fundamentalist Islamic scholar or imam. You could easily see it on the comment board, the comments section at Al Jazeera Arabic, which is the Qatar-based news agency. After the Orlando attack, there were thousands of people celebrating. Or look at the headline of this Turkish newspaper controlled by the government that read, quote, "Death toll rises to 50 in bars where perverted homosexuals go!" Exclamation point. Yeah, Turkey's supposed to be a moderate Muslim country, and yet they just banned the country's largest gay pride parade. Or look at this Pakistani newspaper that praised Mateen. They had a headline reading, "Afghan youth roasted 50 Americans to death." Yep, there certainly is a culture of homophobia out there, but it ain't in America.
Thanks for watching. Click here to never miss a Rebel update. Want even more of the Rebel? Well, click here to become a premium member.